This is Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over, #1, which was released on April 9th, 2025 by DC Comics. Um, this is a sequel series to Fire and Ice Welcome to Smallville, which came out in 2023. This series originally lasted 6 issues, and I believe this new miniseries, is slated to run the same amount of issues. I very much enjoyed the previous series, Welcome to Smallville. In fact, let's take a quick look at that. So I was eagerly awaiting this one as well. And to cut to the chase, I enjoyed this as well as I did the previous series. Now, the thing I had some trepidation about was that there's a different artist. They are using the same cover artist, Terry and Rachel Dodson, on these covers, which is cool. At least on the A cover, which is what I always get for this series. But the series previously had been drawn by Natasha Bustos, and it's written by Joanna Starr, as is the current new series. And it has Natasha Bustos' art style I love, but I think some people might have been turned off because it's a very cartoony type style, and they might not have been accustomed to that or used to it. The series actually, I think, started in this Power Girl special that came out in 2023 in a backup series, or in a backup story by Joanna Starr and Natasha Bustos. So that was my first exposure to this series, even though, Fire and Ice had been around, back in the 80s too, but not in their own series as members of the Justice League. So anyways, I had dug that. So when it said at the end, look for Fire and Ice's adventures to continue in the fall, I was like, okay, cool. And then this, Fire and Ice Welcome to Smallville series happened. And like I said, I very much enjoyed it, although I'm actually missing the 6th and final issue of it. I just never got around to getting it, and it never showed up at my local comic shop. But I'll get it soon. This new issue, I'm not going to show the insides of all of it, but it has sort of a callback to the opening of the first issue of the Welcome to Smallville series. So as you can see, it has a similar layout, and then this part is similar as well, which I didn't really realize until I got these issues out and looked at, and was like, oh, they're using sort of a similar motif. But this new series is drawn by Stephen Byrne. So that was my trepidation at first. I was like, well, I don't know if I like Stephen Byrne's art. I'm not familiar with it. But I'm happy to say I really liked it. It still has a somewhat cartoony look to it, but it's done in a much more subtle way than Natasha Bustos' art. So I think that some of the people who might have had a problem with the cartooniness of the previous miniseries, this might be more, something that they can get behind, because the art is a little more realistic looking, even though it does have a touch of cartooniness to it. So anyways, it's still written by Joanna Starr, though, and I think some of the things if you go on YouTube and look on, reviews of this comic, a lot of YouTube comic book critics are very much they're always angry about something. They're, and criticizing Marvel and DC for ruining comics. And you would think that these people would have stopped commenting about comics because they seem to hate everything about Marvel and DC. And even the people in the comments section are like that. It's sort of puzzling. But anyways, so they had all sorts of problems, like some of those YouTubers. Like there was a scene in one of these issues. So this is issue number 2. Issue number 3. There was a scene where there was like a drag performance, and fire ends up hitting one of the protesters, who is Miss Congeniality, who's a villain anyway. But they sort of cast it as, oh, she just hit some random person. That's not a heroic thing to do, blah, blah, blah. So they kind of lost their minds over this comic, and then they were amazed when it had a sequel series. I mean, I was amazed too, but just simply because I liked this series and I just figured it was done. I didn't know there was going to be a new thing. Now, what the reason that there's a new series is, I guess, maybe probably because the other one was popular and they wanted to keep doing it, but also the sort of the hook of the series is that Fire and Ice's powers have been switched. As you can see, Ice's has green flame of a fire, and Fire has ice powers of ice. So it's a switched power thing because during the Absolute Power miniseries that happened a little while ago, some of the superheroes' powers got switched around. So that's sort of the hook of this series. Now, I don't want to show all the comic because it just came out today, literally. But I think it's very funny. You know, it's like runs 22 pages. And one of the criticisms, again, of the previous series was that there were so many characters, like, it would just went on, and people were kind of like, it took, I guess, people a long time to read. There was a lot of reading involved and a lot of characters to keep track of. So there's probably fewer characters maybe in this issue to keep track of, but it does take a while to read. There's a lot here to read, and to me that's not a bad thing. You know, you sort of get your money's worth. It is $3.99, 22 pages, but you know, you get a good full story here, which is to be continued. Though there is a twist at the end, which I don't want to spoil really, but I think it was kind of already telegraphed in when people were talking about this series, is that it's going to be like a Freaky Friday situation at the end of this, where they sort of switch not only powers but identities. Now, this scene right here is probably going to be a scene that sets off the anti-woke YouTubers. Although I think it was an attempt maybe to Joanne Starr to sort of criticize a performative wokeness person. This guy here, who is the brother of a villain, Smarty Pants, that was in the previous series. So this guy is like, I'm an ally, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he wants to take the photo with this girl who runs the hair salon that they own. And he's all posting, you know, like Black Lives Matter, as he's taking a photo with the black girl. And, you know, so he's trying to be an ally or whatever, but he goes about it in a very condescending way that, you know, treats her like an object rather as an individual. So I can see that it does come kind of out of nowhere, this scene here, and it does seem in a way to sort of be like, I can see how some anti-woke YouTubers will seize upon this scene. I mean, I haven't seen any videos yet. Like I said, the comic just came out, but I can imagine that they're going to seize on this scene and make some comment about it. Either as, but you would think it would be friendly to their point of view because they're anti-woke, and here they're Joanne Starr is sort of making fun of a woke guy here, you know, a white liberal. Although maybe that's the angle that they'll attack. Well, she's attacking a white guy. That's why, you know, I don't know. You know, I just think the scene sort of, you know, you could take that whole scene out and it would, you know, you wouldn't miss it. But I thought it was kind of funny, though. Anyway, so there is a thing here where they have a party, and they're having a whole bunch of people like Black Canary and Zatanna show up at the party. There's a lot of funny lines in the thing, but at one point, Fire brings out of Zatanna's hat, brings out a monkey's paw and wishes for their powers to go back to normal, you know. So, but it turns out that ends up causing the Freaky Friday situation to happen, which will presumably be what happens in the rest of the series, where they try to adjust to the fact that they're in the wrong bodies. So anyways, like I said, I enjoyed it. I'm glad that there's another series of this. I can see DC really liking this as a series that they can put into little graphic novels and then put into regular um, bookstores and department stores to sort of aim at people who don't regularly buy comic books, maybe even like the young female audience. Um, so I think this is a very positive thing. Now I can see some people complaining, well, if they're trying to aim at a young audience, why are they having sort of adult jokes in here? You know, there's a thing, Fire wants bigger boobs and stuff like that, you know, as part of her request from the monkey's paw. Um, well, have they looked at kids' books recently? You know, their young adult books deal with, I mean, if you just go to Walmart and look at young adult books, they're dealing with all, you know, uh, gay relationships and all sorts of things that uh, these anti woke YouTubers would find shocking, you know. So really, DC is just fitting in with what's going on today, you know, I think. So a comic like this is really what they should be doing, you know. And once it gets to 6 issues, then they can put it in a book and market it at bookstores and things like that. And it may be precisely the type of comic that a certain segment of the audience right now that's reading manga and things like that might really enjoy, because it's more about relationships and things like that rather than about um, superheroes having villains to fight necessarily. Even the villains are like comical, you know, in the series or in the previous miniseries, Fire and Ice. So, anyways, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's back, and I'm relieved that Stephen Byrne is a good artist, and you know that I can. That was my main concern, really. That is, I'm not sure if Stephen Byrne is going to be a good fit for this, and I kind of thought if you know sometimes you can really enjoy a series and then they put the wrong artist on it or they put a different artist, and that series you really liked suddenly you don't like it anymore. Well, that's not the case here. Even though I'm a fan of Natasha Bustos' art, I thought Stephen Byrne's art complemented this comic just as well, and it may even please some people who had problems with the cartoonist of Natasha Bustos' art, which I didn't. But if that is their issue, then this should solve their problem. So anyway, that's it for me. Thumbs up for me. Fire and Ice When Hell Freezes Over, #1, available at your local comic shop. Thanks for watching.